For thousands of years, humans looked at the night sky and wondered what waited beyond the stars. But among all those lights, one always stood out, a deep red dot shining like a burning coal. That red dot was Mars, the planet that captured human imagination more than any other. Ancient people called it the god of war. Scientists called it the red planet. But to ordinary humans, it felt like a mysterious neighbor silently watching Earth. The narrator explains that Mars was not just a planet. It was a question. Could humans ever reach it? Could life exist there? Could Mars become a second home if Earth changed or broke? Slowly, this question turned into a dream. And that dream turned into a mission. Medium white star, why Mars became important. Earth was beautiful, but it was fragile. Population was increasing. Weather was changing. Resources were decreasing. Scientists warned that one day humans might need another place to survive. Mars was cold, dangerous, and covered in dust, but still, it was the closest thing to a new home. Robots were sent first. Some landed safely. Some crashed. Some stopped working in silence. But every robot brought back information that made humans more hopeful. Mars had water ice. Mars had seasons. Mars had valleys and mountains. Mars once had rivers. Maybe, just maybe, humans could live there. Medium white star, the decision that changed everything. In the early 2030s, after years of debate, arguments, failures, and small victories, humanity finally made a brave decision. We will send humans to Mars. This decision shocked the world. Some people were excited. Some were afraid. Some said it was impossible. But scientists and explorers knew. If humans wanted a future, they had to take this step. The mission would be called Ars-1, the most ambitious space mission in human history. Medium white star, the truth no one told the world. Behind the scenes, experts knew the reality. Traveling to Mars would be far more dangerous than going to the moon. Mars was 225 million kilometers away. 7 months of travel. No rescue possible. No turning back if something broke. Deadly radiation all around. A small error could end the mission. A small leak could kill the crew. A small delay could push them into deep space forever. Yet humans didn't give up. The narrator ends part 1 with suspense. The journey to the red planet had begun, and humanity was about to face challenges bigger than anything they had ever known. When humanity decided to send people to Mars, they discovered a truth that shocked even the smartest engineers. Earth had rockets, but no rocket strong enough, safe enough, or smart enough to reach Mars with humans. So they had to build something completely new, a spacecraft unlike anything humans had ever made. They called it Ars-1, but in the beginning, Ars-1 was nothing more than drawings, wires, half-working engines, and long nights filled with failures. Engineers said it felt like building a flying city in the middle of a storm. Medium white star, the impossible requirements. The spacecraft needed to do things no machine had done before. Carry humans for 7 months. Produce its own oxygen. Recycle water. Survive deadly solar radiation. Grow small plants for food. Stay warm in freezing darkness. Stay cool near the sun. And land gently on a planet with almost no air. One scientist said, "If Ars-1 makes one mistake, it becomes a metal coffin." This sentence followed the engineers every day. Medium white star, the first major failure. The team built a huge life support system, a machine that cleaned air, controlled temperature, and handled oxygen. During a late-night test, something went wrong. A small wire overheated. A spark appeared. And within seconds, the entire life support chamber filled with smoke. Alarm screamed. Engineers ran. Fire suppression systems activated. The smoke cleared after a few minutes, but the damage was massive. Some engineers wanted to give up. But one young engineer, Hannah Lee, refused. She said, "If the system can fail, we must learn why. Humans will depend on it. We fix it today, or we fail forever." Her words reignited the team. They rebuilt the system stronger than before. Medium white star, a hidden danger found just in time. A month before launch, Commander Raylan visited the spacecraft. He checked every room silently, touching the walls, feeling the floor. Then he noticed something odd, a low vibration coming from the fuel line. No one had noticed it before. When engineers opened the line, they found a hairline crack. Tiny, almost invisible, but big enough to explode the entire ship once in space. The room went silent. If Raylan had not touched that pipe, the mission would have ended before it even began. They replaced the entire fuel system. Medium White Star Rs-1 finally stands ready. After 2 years of failures, repairs, tears, and victories, Rs-1 finally stood tall. White, massive, silent, waiting. It was not perfect, but it was humanity's best chance to reach Mars. And soon, 4 brave humans would step inside it, trusting their lives of every wire, bolt, and circuit. While Rs-1 stood on the launch pad, silent and powerful, another story was unfolding far from the cameras. The story of the 4 people chosen to leave their world behind. They were not just astronauts. They were symbols of human courage. Medium White Star Commander Raylan Ward, the man who never showed fear. Raylan was calm, steady, and disciplined. People said he had moon landing nerves, cold, controlled, unshakable. But no one knew the truth. Raylan often sat alone in the simulator room after midnight. He would stare at the Mars map, knowing one mistake could send the crew drifting forever in space. He visited his mother before the mission. She didn't say goodbye. She only whispered, "Promise me you will try to come back." He nodded, but he knew he could not make that promise. Medium White Star Dr. Zara Malik, the scientist who carried the dream of life. Zara, a soft-spoken Pakistani biologist, believed that Mars could grow life again. Plants, bacteria, even small crops. She packed a tiny vial of seeds in her bag. Her childhood dream was simple. I want to see something green on a red world. Before leaving, she recorded a message for her father. "If I don't return, tell the world I tried to make Mars alive." Her voice shook, but her eyes did not. Medium White Star pilot Luis Ortega, the spirit of the mission. Luis was the loudest, funniest, and most fearless member of the team. He joked during meetings, laughed during tests, and always tried to ease tension. But beneath his smile was fear he never admitted. His younger sister hugged him tightly before launch and said, "Promise you'll look at Mars for me." He promised, and this time, he meant it. Medium White Star engineer Hannah Lee, the hands that could save them. Hannah was quiet, precise, and brilliant with machines. She could repair anything, from engines to oxygen scrubbers. When she signed her will before the mission, her hands trembled. She wasn't afraid of dying. She was afraid of failing the team. She wrote one last note and placed it in her locker. "If I don't come back, remember me as someone who tried to fix the impossible." Medium White Star the night before launch. The 4 astronauts sat together in the dim training hall. No cameras, no reporters, no noise, only silence. Raylan finally spoke. "Tomorrow, we stop being people. Tomorrow, we become Earth's hope." No one replied. They didn't need to. They all understood one thing. Mars was waiting, and not all of them might return. The morning of the launch did not feel like any normal morning. The air was heavy. The sky was strangely quiet. Even the wind seemed to wait. Millions of people around the world watched their screens. Schools stopped classes. Hospitals paused whole duties. Mosques and churches prayed for the crew. Everyone knew this was not just a launch. It was humanity leaving home for the longest journey ever attempted. Inside the astronaut building, Raylan, Zara, Luis, and Hannah suited up. Their white Mars suits looked thick, bright, and uncomfortable, but they wore them like armor. A small moment changed the atmosphere. A young technician, barely 18, looked at Zara and whispered, "Please come back." Zara froze. Her heart tightened. This was the first time someone didn't call her a hero. They called her a human. Medium White Star walked toward the monster. The crew walked through the long white tunnel leading to Rs-1. Every step echoed like history being written. Outside, the massive rocket stood like a giant frozen beast. White body, black stripes, red markings. The sunlight made it look even bigger and more dangerous. Luis muttered, "It looks angry today." Hannah replied softly, "Maybe it's testing us." Medium White Star inside mission control. Hundreds of experts sat in front of glowing screens. Hands shook. Sweat formed. No one blinked. A tiny mistake could send 4 humans into fire. A voice on the loudspeaker announced, "Ours 1 crew on board." Suddenly, the whole room felt colder. Medium White Star, the countdown begins. The crew was locked in their seats. They could hear the rocket breathing, pipes groaning, engines pressurizing, metal expanding. 10, 9, 8. The ground outside shook. Dust rose from the launch pad. Birds flew away in fear. 7, 6. Zara looked at Raylan. He nodded once. Calm, steady. Lewis whispered, "Let's touch Mars." 5, 4, 3. Hannah gripped her seat. Her heart beat louder than the engines. 2, 1. A fireball exploded beneath Ars 1. The rocket roared like a monster awakening from sleep. Liftoff. The spacecraft began rising, slow but powerful. Medium White Star, the first unexpected problem. Just 40 seconds after liftoff, an engine sensor flashed red. A pressure spike. Unstable reading. Possible explosion. Mission control froze. The engine could blow any second. Raylan's voice broke the silence. "We see the warning, adjusting thrust." He steadied the rocket by hand. The engine stabilized by a fraction. The world didn't know how close they came to losing the mission. Ars 1 continued climbing, carrying 4 humans toward the unknown. When Ars 1 finally escaped Earth's pull, the world below became a small blue circle fading into darkness. Inside the spacecraft, the 4 astronauts sat quietly, listening to a new kind of silence, a silence that did not belong to Earth. The narrator explains, "In space, silence is not peaceful. It is heavy. It is endless." As the engines powered down, Ars 1 floated like a lonely bird in a black ocean. The journey to Mars had officially begun. Medium White Star, the first days of the journey. At first, everything felt strange. Food tasted different. Water floated in small bubbles. They slept in small bags attached to walls so their bodies wouldn't drift away. Raylan checked systems every hour. Zara studied her plants that were growing in small boxes under artificial light. Lewis recorded messages for Earth, joking to hide his fear. Hannah repaired small issues before they became big ones. But soon, the real test began. Medium White Star, the solar storm. On the 19th day, a message came from Mission Control. Warning, a major solar flare is heading your direction. Everyone froze. Solar flares were deadly, beams of invisible radiation strong enough to fry electronics and harm human bodies. Raylan ordered the crew into the water shield room, a tiny chamber surrounded by tanks of water. They crowded inside like 4 people hiding from a monster outside their door. The storm hit. Static filled their radios. The temperature rose. Lights flickered. One by one, systems shut down. For a moment, they were blind and powerless. Lewis whispered, "If the computers die, we die." Hannah held her breath as radiation levels climbed on the monitor, higher, higher, then finally stopped. The storm passed. Ars 1 survived, but the message was clear. Space does not forgive mistakes. Medium White Star, the oxygen scare. A week later, Zara noticed something strange. The oxygen levels were slowly dropping. Hannah opened the panel and found a tiny crack in a pipe. A crack smaller than a fingernail, but enough to slowly kill them over months. They had one choice: repair it in open space. Raylan suited up for a spacewalk. Outside, he looked like a white dot floating in darkness. Hannah guided him from inside. He patched the crack with a metal seal and special bonding glue, hand shaking as he worked in total silence. After 28 minutes, oxygen levels returned to normal. They were safe, for now. Medium White Star Mars appears for the first time. On the 153rd day, Lewis looked out the window and whispered, "I see it." A red circle, glowing softly in the black sky. Mars. Mars was no longer a dream. It was now a destination waiting for them. But the narrator warns, arriving at Mars is not victory. Landing on Mars is a real battle. After 7 months in deep space, Ars 1 finally reached the orbit of Mars. The red planet filled the window, huge, silent, and glowing like hot iron. But the narrator explained something the world rarely understands. Reaching Mars is easy. Landing on Mars is almost impossible. Mars had an atmosphere too thin to slow them down, but thick enough to create deadly heat. One wrong move, one late reaction, one small miscalculation, and the crew would burn, crash, or vanish into red dust. Medium White Star, the descent begins. Raylan pulled the lever. Beginning entry. The spacecraft tilted nose first and hit the atmosphere at brutal speed. The hull shook violently. Sparks flew from the window edges. Zara felt her chest tighten. Lewis grabbed the straps holding him to his seat. Hannah's hands moved across controls, checking numbers faster than her breath. A loud warning exploded through the cabin. Heat shield critical. The temperature outside the ship crossed 1,200 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt metal. The descent computer struggled to stabilize the ship. Then, boom, a shockwave smashed against Ars-1. The lights flickered. A panel above Buzzy's head popped open. Raylan yelled, "Hold positions. We're riding the fire." Medium White Star parachute failure. At 11 kilometers altitude, the parachutes were supposed to deploy and slow the ship. Raylan called out, "Deploy chutes." Nothing happened. Lewis shouted, "They are stuck." Mars dust had jammed one of the release hinges. If the parachutes didn't open in the next 5 seconds, they would hit the ground too fast to survive. Hannah unbuckled, grabbed the emergency lever and pulled it with all her strength. Whoosh! The parachutes exploded open, just in time. But the force jerked the spacecraft violently to the left. Alarms blared again. Engine compensation required. Medium White Star dust storm ambush. As they got closer, something terrifying appeared on the surface. A dust storm, rising like a spinning wall of red smoke. Zara whispered, "We can't land in that." But they had no choice. Fuel was almost gone. Raylan switched to manual control. He fought the storm as a lander shook like a leaf in a hurricane. Dust covered the windows. He couldn't see the ground. He was landing blind. Lewis read the radar numbers loudly. Altitude 90 meters. 70. 40. The engine sputtered. Fuel dropped to critically low levels. 20 meters. 10 meters. Raylan held the control steady, teeth clenched, heart pounding. Thump! The lander hit the surface. Hard, but alive. Inside the cabin, no one moved for a few seconds. They just breathed. They had survived the deadliest landing in human history. For a long moment after landing, no one spoke. The cabin air felt thick. The dust storm outside hit the lander like soft fists. Four humans sat quietly, listening to their own breathing, alive after the most dangerous landing in history. Finally, Raylan whispered, "Prepare for EVA." EVA means stepping outside. The world waited. Billions watched. The red planet waited too, silent and cold. Medium White Star stepping into a new world. The hatch opened slowly, releasing a thin hiss of pressure. A cold, sharp breeze touched Raylan's helmet. He climbed down the metal ladder, each step heavy in low gravity. As he stepped off the last rung, the narrator describes, this was not just a step onto soil. It was humanity entering a second world. Raylan placed his boot on the reddish sand. The dust moved in slow motion, settling around his foot. He took one deep breath and said, "On behalf of Earth, we are here." These simple words echoed across history. Medium White Star 3 more footprints. Zara followed next. She stepped onto the surface and immediately bent down to touch the soil with her glove. It slipped like powder through her fingers. She whispered, "This world is ready for life again." Lewis came out with a laugh that broke the quiet tension. "Mars feels unreal." Hannah stepped out last. She looked at the sky, a pink-orange horizon under a pale sun. "It looks like a dream that forgot its colors," she said softly. Together, their 4 shadows stretched across the red ground, the first human shadows ever cast on Mars. Medium White Star, the flag, and the message. Raylan and Lewis planted the Earth flag into the sand. Not a country flag, a blue flag with a white circle representing all people. Zara placed a small silver plate next to it. It read, "We came not to conquer, but to learn, to grow, and to survive." Hannah recorded every moment for the next generations. Medium White Star, a small miracle. Before leaving the landing site, Zara opened her small container of seeds, the one she had carried from Earth. She placed one seed gently into a tiny sample of Martian soil and covered it with a transparent capsule. It may never grow, or maybe it would. Raylan placed his hand on her shoulder. One day, he said, this planet will have life again. Medium white styled the first sunrise. As they walked toward their habitat module, the sun began to rise on Mars. A soft golden light spread across the red hills. The narrator ends. For the first time in history, humans watched the sunrise from another planet. Mars was no longer alone, and neither was humanity.